Jessica Smetana.
Welcome to another edition of Golic and Smetty. I am Mike Golic Sr. She is Jess Smetana. And Jess, we are closing in on the days when you will be out here for the second annual Golic Family Foundation Subpar Classic, where you will put your golfing greatness on the line since you did win an award last year. So ready to defend that?
I'm excited for the award. I'm more excited for the merch that I will probably be getting with your little Golic Foundation crest on it. It's some of the best merch out there. I can't wait, Mike. I can't wait to be back on campus. I can't wait to hang out with you and the fam and hopefully make some cookies that I will be delivering to you once again while you're talking to Brady Quinn.
God, you're the best. Absolutely. We'll all dive in on those cookies. Yeah, we always want the merch to be good. We like the people that are coming here, especially the celebs like you or the people that are paying to get some good merch to hang on to. And we don't want to make it some big thing on the shoulders or on the chest, just something real little. So
it's cute. It's very cute. Whoever designed it, A+ for me.
Well, I did it. I designed all the clothing.
Of course, yes. Naturally, you and your graphic design skills probably responsible for all of that.
How do you not think that I am responsible for all of it?
Okay.
I don't. So you don't believe it?
Sure, I don't.
All right.
But that's
all
okay.
Right. All right, never mind. We got a ton to talk about today, from a lot of news going on in the NBA, where we are in the WNBA. The top teams are dominating like we thought they would. We're gonna chat about that. We got F1 and the alternate broadcast, which ever since Peyton Manning and Eli Manning have started these things, I think we've yet to find the next one that's been any good, and I think that continues here with F1.
We will discuss. We
will discuss. But Jess, I mean, we have to start probably with the biggest story in the world. This submersible that's gone down to look at the wreck of the Titanic with 5 people on it. I mean, I think we have to say, first and foremost, all you can do is hope for the best here. I mean, just hope and pray for the best for the 5 people in there that are in this submersible. Supposedly they have 96 hours of air and the search is on for them. So that's number one, is to hope. But as each hour passes, obviously that gets tougher and tougher to do. But just overall, just this idea, and did you see this thing? It's like you're sitting in an MRI tube. I mean, it is crazy.
Yes, that's actually a great description of what it looks like. It's just a big cylinder that people sit inside, and they go thousands of feet underwater. I don't know where the deep ocean ranks for you in terms of like greatest fears, because it's a top 3 for me. Anytime we talk about surfing or anything like that on Off the Looking Glass, I'm always saying how scared I am of the ocean. The idea that someone would pay to do this is, I think, why it's become such a massive public interest story at this point. And like, of course, we hope that everyone on board is okay, but I don't know if you watched that CBS Sunday Morning video of the David Pogue went into one of these things a year ago and showed all of the technology aboard and what the kind of the game plan is. You leave from Newfoundland, you travel on this big tanker out into the middle of the ocean, and then they dump you underwater. So he was invited to go on as a reporter so he could, I guess, promote, and I'm sure this is like good PR for this company, you know, blast this out to the world, like what a cool, unique thing this is. But it didn't leave me wanting to go aboard, certainly, watching that a year ago. And now that this video has resurfaced, I am positive that if I were a CBS Sunday Morning correspondent, I would have passed on this assignment. I would not have gone aboard this thing.
Well, and you said, and it showed the submersible and the technology. There's no technology. I mean, it was like a button. I mean, it was like
one button. Well, so the guy who invented it, who is apparently on board at this very moment, said that he wanted the technology to be similar to an elevator. Right. In terms of simplicity, which I don't know if you've ever been stuck in an elevator before. I have. It happens pretty frequently. They break down a lot. So I don't know if that's a great comparison to begin with. But also, he said on this video that parts of this machine he bought at Camping World. Yes. And I just feel like I would never want to be on a machine that has a bowl game sponsor and it's not like one of the top 3, you know?
I guess, and we can't stress enough that we certainly hope again, this ends in a good story. Again, it has 96 hours of emergency sustainable capability, which would include oxygen and fuel. So we'll see. But I heard that too. Parts from Camping World. It's run by like a game console, or a game
like a PS3 controller.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one button, like they said, like an elevator. That blows my mind. And people pay $250,000 to go on this. So, yeah. I mean, listen, I get if you have that adventure in you. And what I didn't realize is there's been more exploration of space than deep sea. And this, where they're going, 14,000 feet, a little over, like I think close to like 2.5 miles down. Listen, I don't know what's worse, trying to go up to space, Jess, or going down 2 miles in the sea where, you can be crushed by the water, the pressure and such, or missing like they are. They both scare the hell out of me. And then in this confined area, to be in a confined area, man, I don't know. I've always said I think be more apt if you were given the choice. You can go up in like SpaceX or whatever one of these ships are that take you right to the brink of space. It's not really outer space, but right to the brink of space, or go down 2 miles in the ocean, and you had to do one. Which would you do?
Do I have to pick one?
Yes.
Can I
Yes.
opt out? I don't
No.
like this. This is a terrible scenario.
You have to pick one.
I don't want to do either, ever. I don't. I really don't. This is terrifying. This is bad. I don't like any of it. PS3 controllers, by the way, they break all the time. We have one. It has to be constantly hooked up to power, or else it just doesn't work. I don't trust them. I know that, like, I've seen a bunch of, everyone on Twitter now is like an armchair submersible expert. And so I've just been reading nonstop coverage of this, by the way. Like, I woke up this morning and it was the first thing I thought about when I opened my eyes. I FaceTime my sister because she's a fellow Titanic enthusiast. I think there's like a genre of people, specifically like girls that grew up in the 90s when Titanic was really popular, that got super invested in Titanic and know a lot, probably too much about it. And I would classify my sister and myself in that camp. We went to the Museum of Science and Industry when we were 8 years old to watch the Titanic exhibit, where they give you a little card with a person's name, and then you go through the exhibit and look at all the stuff, and then you leave and they tell you if your character survived or not. Like, we did all of that growing up. So this is like very of interest to us. But I've been following all these people on Twitter who are saying all these things about, the technology and like, these major water vessels, a lot of them have very basic joysticks and stuff. So the PS3 maybe isn't like that crazy of a thing, but I disagree. There are so many things when I watched the CBS Sunday Morning video that struck me as reasons I would never venture onto this thing, and the PS3 controller is probably top 3.
I'm with you, Jess. If I was even, and by the way, my choice would be I would do the space thing.
Yeah, I think there's probably a better survivability rate just because it's happened more times. But
listen, I said, and you're by the ocean in Miami, I choose a swimming pool over an ocean any day of the week. I choose a lake over the ocean any day of the week. There are way too many things in the ocean that can hurt me. Okay. And that's just the fish, let alone riptides and things like that. I don't want any of that. I don't need any of that. I'm not looking for that in my life. Yeah. I want to lay by.
You're absolutely right. The fish that are at like 6 feet underwater are gross. Yeah. The ones at like 5,000 feet have to be the nastiest things you've ever seen.
Yeah, and luckily we wouldn't have to mess with them because you'd be in a submersible. But still, I don't need it. I don't need that. No,
I don't want to see them through the porthole.
But if I am all of a sudden saying, yeah, you know what, I got 250 thou laying around, I'm kind of interested in maybe going down in this thing because nobody's done it. Let me go check it out. And then you show me I'm basically sitting in an MRI tube. There's one button in there. They tell me there's equipment in there from Camping World, and then they show me a game controller as how they're kind of working this thing. I can't tell you how quickly I'm out. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just like, wait a minute. Shouldn't modern technology be way better than this? Again, I am no expert on this. All I can go on is my instinct of saying, this doesn't look like it's going to work very well.
No, and also like James Cameron did it. He did it 30 years ago, and what he did is good enough for me. He went down there, he took some videos, we all saw it on the big screen. Leonardo DiCaprio was there, Kate Winslet, Billy Zane. Like we've seen it already. Been there, done that with the Titanic. Like, I'm good. Let the Titanic rest at the bottom of the ocean. I'm not interested. Pass. Next.
Yeah. Agree with you. So, listen, it's tough to just go on to a sport from this because this is actually life and death in a situation that has us
so
all
bizarre.
It bizarre. It has us so intrigued at that piece of equipment going down there, and now crossing your fingers and just hoping upon all hope that somehow, some way they have survived this. But it is what's going on now. It is the talk of everything now. So we'll see. Hopefully, again, it's a great outcome. We will wait and see. But also, we'll get back to some sports after this, something that we can be maybe a little more cheerful about. All right, Jess, on to the sports world where the biggest thing going on this weekend, at least I thought, there's obviously NBA news out there. We're going to get to the WNBA as well. But the U.S. Open, I love the majors in golf, and I think the ones I like best are the U.S. Open and the Open, the British Open, but it's the Open, because those have the best two potential of being so difficult. Maybe, it's so wild. We watch sports and we want to see this artistry, these great performances. But when I watch the U.S. Open and I watch the Open, I want to see golfers struggle. I want to see so much struggle, especially in the Open, wherever it is in Europe with the wind blowing, maybe it's raining out, so difficult to golf. And the U.S. Open, the course being unbelievably tough. This course, the fairways were the widest they've ever been. You got two guys setting a record on day one with shooting 62s. So I didn't get what I wanted out of this. And then the whole LA Country Club, I don't know how much you follow this. This seems like one of the most uppity clubs known to mankind, that I would want no part of these people from this club who remind me of a bunch of old fuddy-duddies sitting on a lawn yelling, on their steps saying, "Get off my lawn," of what you can't do with their club.
No, they all reminded me of Judge Smales from
Yes.
Caddyshack.
Yeah.
Like that's the golfer I'm picturing who's a member. There's only 800 members there. We talked about it a little bit last week on the show when we were previewing the U.S. Open. But 800 members, it's like a $250,000 initiation fee. There's a good would you rather, Mike? Would you rather spend the $250K on the Titanic submersible or the LA Country Club membership? I'm not sure. You're not allowed to use your phone there. You can only use your phone in your parked car or in the phone booth in the men's locker room, apparently, at this country club. You're not allowed to take videos and pictures, et cetera, et cetera. No shorts. You have to wear a dining jacket if you're over the age of 6 at a certain time during the day. It has some of the strictest country club rules.
Wait. I didn't know this. Wait, over the age of 6, so if you're 7, you have to wear a jacket?
I read that. Yes, I read that in, I think it was Joe Pompliano. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. In his Substack, he had all the rules written out for the LA Country Club. And it said something about dinner jacket over the age of 6. So yeah, I guess if you're 7, tough luck. Gotta go get fitted for it. You have to wear tailored pants. Like it is, but for a U.S. Open, like this is supposed to be an open championship, right? This is the U.S. Open. It's not supposed to be, allegedly, at a course like this that is so restrictive of people, outsiders coming in. And apparently they were really restrictive of the amount of tickets that they sold to the general public, and also the tier of tickets, because they were selling a lot of tickets for, the suites and the $1,000 seats and all of that. But if you wanted just general admission, good luck. It was tough to get.
It seemed like some of the 20,000 a day were general admission, but from what we understood, a lot of the members were buying those up. I mean, there was like nobody there. I mean, could you imagine what those members felt like when they saw the golfers walking? They would, how they show a football player, basketball player walking into their game. They were showing the golfers coming in. They were in shorts and like T-shirts. Those members had to be cringing, saying, "These people are walking into our club looking like that." I mean, I don't think I could despise a club or the people who run a club more, than those people, and reading some of the rules involved and not want to be involved in something like that. Supposedly, now, I'm not sure if I heard this correctly, that they're supposed to get it there again in 2032, and everybody's starting to say, no, pull that bid from them. I mean, the golfers don't want it to be there. Fans don't want it to be there. It sucked being there. Now, I watched it because I wanted to see some tough golf, and in all honesty, I like seeing great golf too.
Yeah.
And congrats to Wyndham Clark. I mean, This guy held off of some of the best players in the world by playing consistent, especially when the back nine you could score well, or the front nine you could score well, and the back nine was so tough. Rory was trying to make a run at him, and Clark held him off. So good for him. A great win for him. But, man, that experience at LA Country Club, I hope we never have to go through that again.
Yeah, it was especially weird on the early couple of rounds were very quiet and people were complaining. So it seemed like, at least the final round, if you watched the end on Sunday evening, you probably were like, I don't know what, it looked like there were a lot of people there. I don't know what the complaint was. But when you compare it to years past, it definitely sounded different. And it wasn't like the course looked bad. Like it was a nice course. It played nicely the last day, especially. Like I think Wyndham Clark was like 10 under, right, with his winning score. But yeah, it was definitely disappointing leading up to that and left people wanting more.
If you hit it in the rough there, you paid the price because it was like 5 inches. So that was wild seeing guys hit out of there. You had to make some pinpoint shots. So the course itself, I'm not ripping that. I mean, outside of the normally you see more narrow fairways to make it a little tougher on players, and these were like wide open. Now, that's what you and I would love to see is wide open fairways.
I love a wide fairway.
Oh my God. Give me a lot of forgiveness going on here.
Build the whole course out of a fairway.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So, no, it has nothing to do with the course. I somewhat liked, wasn't the greatest, but I did like it. But boy, that area, now Mike was there Thursday. He was walking the course with some of his friends, and I guess he said the house on the house on the course that's the biggest or maybe the most expensive, I think it's Lionel Richie. Lionel Richie has a house on. I got to imagine the resale of those houses if you sell on that course, because Mike was reading about it and said the land the course is on is worth billions of dollars of
$8
where
billion,
it is.
I read, yes. It's in the middle of Beverly Hills, but I also read that because of some like California state law, the people that own the country club, since it's technically a nonprofit member-owned country club, they pay 1975 land value taxes on it. So they save like $80 million in taxes every year, which is incredible.
It's unreal. But, it's wild because I think we were all wondering if we were going to see live PGA drama, right? Because this was the first tournament, and it was obviously a major of when we had this, or the first major since we had the announcement of whatever the next iteration is going to be of live, DP World and PGA, of what it's going to be. And I think everybody was wondering about cage matches, between the players. But you saw Brooks.
You certainly said it a few times last week.
Oh yeah.
Hoping for a little action.
I was hoping for. We never had really gotten it or seen it publicly. And then you saw Rory and Brooks. They were paired together the first 2 days, walking down the fairway, talking. Everybody seems fine with one another. Again, we don't know what the final product is going to look like, but that was like the big talk coming in was, how is it going to work? How are these players going to get along? And then it turned out to be all about the course and the country club and the rules. I still cannot believe if you're over 6 years old, you have to wear a dinner jacket.
I know. I've been trying to Google it this whole time just to make sure I read that right, but the thought of the little 7-year-old, like on your 7th birthday at the country club, it's like, all right, buddy, got to put on the jacket now.
Wow. Now I was at when Mike was with the Saints, they had part of their training camp at the Greenbrier, which is in West Virginia, which is a beautiful old money facility, right?
It's where they have the bunker underground for nuclear fallout for Congress. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up.
So the Saints were there, and the Patriots came in, and they practice a few days together. So I went there to watch for a few days. Jess, I went to breakfast. I put on a pair of shorts, and like right now I have like a t-shirt, not just a t-shirt. You know, it's a decent t-shirt, but
nice t-shirt,
but a t-shirt nonetheless.
There's levels.
And it's like 7:15 in the morning, and I walk in there, and they're like, "Sorry, sir, you have to have a collared shirt." I said, "A collared shirt?" I said, "It's 7:15 in the morning. I just want some breakfast." They said, "No, you have to have a collared shirt on." I had to go back and put a collared shirt on just to eat breakfast. So this is how I got back at them. They have a bunch of things you do that are like skeet shooting, fishing, and things like that. So I went fishing on the golf course. On the golf course, on some of the fairways, they have lakes. I got their fishing pole. I rented a fishing pole there, and I walked straight through the main lobby with a fishing pole on my shoulder. I had to look like the biggest tool on the face of the earth, but I was like, I'm doing this, man.
Payback is mine.
Exactly. I am walking through. I got to look like the biggest podunk, you know, with this fishing pole on my shoulder. And then while people are golfing, I'm sitting there casting into the lake, catching bass. It was awesome.
Okay, so I found on golf.com, golf attire is acceptable in the locker room and grill room, but after 6 p.m., men must wear a jacket in all other areas of the clubhouse unless otherwise specified for an event. That goes for boys ages 7 and up too.
Come on. Yeah. So they're raising the whole next generation to be a bunch of snobbish a-holes too. So that, I mean,
I don't know. I feel like if you're 7 and you have to wear a dinner jacket, you're gonna rebel. You're gonna be like Judge Smales' grandson
his
or
grandson.
nephew. Oh, I forget his name. Yeah, you're gonna be picking your nose. I want a hamburger and a hot dog. You'll have nothing and like it.
Oh, that's so true. That is so true.
I don't know, Mike. It was You definitely don't want that to be the narrative from a U.S. Open weekend. But Rory played well. I was kind of rooting for him down the back nine. He didn't putt very well on Sunday. But happy for Wyndham Clark. It's always cool to see a guy win at his first major when he hasn't had many tour. I think he's only had a couple tour wins.
He has,
in his career. So definitely a big upset for him.
It's interesting the similarity I think it was in 2010. Or in that area when Rory won the U.S. Open. A month before that, he won the Wells Fargo and then won the U.S. Open. Well, Wyndham, about a month ago, won the Wells Fargo and now won the U.S. Open, kind of the same way Rory had done it. I thought Justin Fowler, he kind of fell off. You know, he was
Ricky
up there
Fowler,
in the lead.
yeah.
I'm sorry, Ricky Fowler, that he was going to finally pull one off. But he kind of dropped out of this thing. But yes, at the end of the day, congrats to Wyndham Clark. For winning, and it's a great major for him to win. Jumps up in the rankings. So onward we go, and hopefully never back to the Los Angeles Country Club. All right, coming up we got NBA talk, we got WNBA talk, and we got F1 talk to get to. We'll be back after this.
We're excited to welcome back Lyndsey D'Arcangelo, who's a college basketball and WNBA writer for The Athletic, as well as Just Women's Sports. Lyndsey, I'm excited to talk to you about this WNBA season because Mike and I, as you know, are humongous homers, and we need to talk about the fact that Notre Dame women's basketball alums are taking over this season in the WNBA. So my question for you, there's 3 former Notre Dame players in the top 5 in scoring so far this season. And of course, we'll get to all the other storylines and everything like that after this. But I need to ask you, which of the 3, Jewel Lloyd, Arike Ogunbowale, and Jackie Young, which of the 3 do you think will finish in that top spot in scoring?
I mean, the way Arike plays is just part of her game, right? I think, didn't she win the scoring title last year or the season before? One of the two. So wouldn't be surprised if she was up there again. Jewel, I mean, she's pretty much the go-to player on Seattle right now. That the entire franchise is going through her, offensively especially. So again, wouldn't be surprised, but for me, the player the Notre Dame alum that has impressed me the most is Jackie Young. Winner of the Most Improved Player Award last season, and then she has just taken her game to a whole different level. One of the most efficient players in the league right now, shooting 60% from the field, leading scorer on the Aces, and she's doing it at all 3 levels, getting to the bucket. She was relying heavily on that mid-range game for a while, but now she's added the 3-point shot, as far as being more efficient with that. So I don't know. My money's on Jackie Young.
You know, there was obviously some movement in the offseason. We've created these teams, you know, a la the NBA, where maybe some super teams. But I mean, what the Aces are doing again, what is the drop from them to the next, whether it's the Sparks, the Wings, whoever is next in the Western Conference of where the Aces are?
Yeah, so I mean, we don't really. I mean, there's conferences in the WNBA, but it's really like just looking from like a whole league standpoint, because the conferences don't really come into play until, I mean, come playoff times anyway. But yeah, at 10-1, I mean, the drop off is huge. You thought, you know, New York with their super team, Breanna Stewart, Courtney Vandersloot, Jonquil Jones, and Sabrina Ionescu, you thought, you know, they would be kind of 1-2 stop. But the Connecticut Sun are playing exceptionally well as well. So you have the Aces are the top tier, and then, you know, it drops down. The Sun aren't far behind, and then the Liberty. But as far as efficiency goes and just finding a weakness on the Aces, just very hard to do that. I mean, they're so sound defensively and offensively. You know, they still have their core from last season that won the championship. You had Candace Parker. You had Alicia Clark, who's an incredible defender. And it's hard to find a weak spot on that team.
What do you think the odds are of a championship rematch, or do you think the Liberty will do something here to really set themselves apart from the Sun over there and the East Coast?
I think the Liberty are still just trying to get that rhythm, because they do have the offense. I think what they need more from is their bench players, which I think will, you know, increase as the season goes on. Because right now the Connecticut Sun bench is playing pretty well, and I think that's kind of been the difference between those two squads. So we'll see. I'm interested to see when they finally get a chance to like match up, to see how that shakes out.
They play a week from today, so Mike, we'll have to watch that after we play in your golf tournament.
Oh, that's right. Oh, at the Liberty and the Sun. Yeah.
And the Sun, yeah.
We'll keep an eye on that. Overall, Lyndsey, this league, especially with what happened in the airport with Brittany Griner, you know, in Phoenix, and talking about the charter flights, has that all kind of been rectified? Is that all going in the right direction now?
I don't think it's been rectified. I think there's some things still, no pun intended, up in the air with that, as far as, you know, best way to proceed going forward. I think with Brittany Griner specifically, that needs to happen yesterday. Her being able to charter every game, that should have been from the start of the season. The transparency with the league is interesting, because when it comes to like issues like this, they can often, the messaging that's mixed up. They say one thing and then maybe do another, and they've done that with expansion. But I think in addition to the charter flight issue, the league's at a very, very pivotal moment right now. And a lot of the bigger decisions coming up, including charter flights, is going to impact the evolution of the league going forward. You have the expansion issue, which is like just a major talking point right now as far as expanding the league so more players can play, roster size, all of that. We saw so many draftees get waived this past year and previous years. And then you have the media deal with ESPN coming up, which, looking at the Ion deal that they just did, is undervalued now. So they have some bargaining power there. And then the new CBA is not up till 2027, I think, but there's some conversations that need to happen now as far as, you know, changes that the players can you know, want to enact as going forward, and some changes that need to be made and addressed there. So, yeah, I mean, I think overall the league's just at a very, like I said, pivotal point in its evolution and in its existence so far.
So has there been any clarity on what the arrangement with Brittany Griner was at the beginning of the season? Because I know reports have come out now that the league claimed that they gave her permission to charter all the games, but her representation said that that's not the case. Mm-hmm. And it seems like what you said, the messaging is mixed up. And so fans are kind of left unsure what's really going on behind the scenes and if the league really is doing what they should be doing to protect her.
Yeah, and I think as far as I know going forward, I think she'll be able to do that. And, you know, as what was said at the beginning of the season and what the league put out, like you said, there's mixed messages coming back now. So it's all, you know, I tend to believe that Brittany's rep has it right, just because in the past I know that the league itself has said one thing and done another, especially with expansion. I mean, I did a tweet once where I just listed things they said, you know, every, 3 months, and then 5 months later, and then 6 months, and they were all different things about expansion. And so I tend to believe Brittany's representation more so in that regard.
You look at in spending half the year in Arizona, they do have that JSX. I know it's kind of the private flight. I know they've taken that for some games, and maybe they'll start using it for more. I know it changes obviously when the playoffs come around. You know, you mentioned expansion a couple of times. Does it happen? And if it does, when does it happen?
It needs to happen. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It needs to happen. I think it's getting to the point for the league where, whatever reason that they're waiting, and it could be financial, or they just don't want to get the location wrong, or maybe they've had some things set up that fell through. It's hard to really know the specifics, as again, they haven't exactly been transparent. I mean, it went from last season, they were going to announce 2 cities by the end of the year. The end of the year came and went, and they said they had already whittled the list down to like 10 teams. And then this past spring, they said there was the 100 teams they were evaluating. So it's kind of been all over the place. But, you know, you just look at the league itself, and it's growing, and the talent, there's just so much talent being left off the table. And if they can't figure out a way to do that under the hard salary cap, you need to add 1 to 2 more teams to get that talent influx into the league. You know, athletes are playing longer, which means established veterans have more of a leg up on the incoming talent, and rookies who don't have that time, who maybe need that time to develop but don't because they can't make a roster. It's just kind of, it's not meshing right now the way it's set up in where we are at this point in time with the talent level and product. So yeah, something needs to happen sooner than later.
I'm curious if you've noticed any sort of like just increase in carryover and excitement from the national championship game that was one of the most watched games in college basketball history for the women, Iowa against LSU, into this WNBA season, and like the carryover when you have a college star like Aaliyah Boston, who's now playing for the Fever, playing very well. If you've just noticed that buzz kind of carry over into the season.
Yeah, and I think it started a couple years ago, but it's gotten, it's increased every single spring when we've seen the viewership and the numbers go through the roof this year, incredibly, with the NCAA tournament, and then how that sort of trickles into the league from the WNBA draft and then into the WNBA season. But yeah, you've seen it for sure. Attendance is up, and then viewership has also been up. The league doesn't normally put out those numbers like during the regular season, but they have recently because certain games have hit benchmarks or just, have done really well. And, the opening weekend did very well. So yeah, I definitely think the women's college game has lured some more fans into it. And then that is starting to carry over, which is what you hope to have, what it happened all along. But I think we're seeing that ramp up because women's sports in general is up.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. It is arrow up, and can't wait to see some of these personalities in women's college basketball head on in to the WNBA. Let's switch sports, Lyndsey. I know you're a Buffalo Bills fan. How nervous were you when all of a sudden there was a little bit of, and it seems like it had nothing to do with football, between Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs?
So living in Buffalo, right, the football season's like year long. I mean, there's just constant conversation and everything. And, being a Bills fan, it's just, you're always in tune to it. But there was a lot that was left over from that Cincinnati implosion, I'll call it. And then what we saw on the sidelines between Diggs and Allen. And then like everybody knows somebody who knows something about what's going on. Like there's all these rumors. And there's all similar themes and similar parts to them where you're like, okay, somewhere in here is the truth. And, Ellen may have gotten involved in some extracurricular activities off the field that, maybe impacted his play that day. I won't get into specifics because, again, it's all like conversation. But I swear, like, one of my friends was like, yeah, so my dentist knows a guy who knows a guy kind of thing. But yeah, so there's this tension that I think was never resolved. And then it was just weird the way McDermott handled that situation with saying, like, I'm very concerned, and then Allen, like, almost confessing his soul and, saying how much he loves Diggs. It's just, I wish they would have done that Hard Knocks show with the Bills this season. Because, I mean, could we have asked for a better storyline? It would have been perfect.
I have, like, a friend of a friend who's, like, hairdresser's aunt also has like Josh Allen rumors, like, and I have no Buffalo connections. Like, you're the only person I know who lives in Buffalo, so you're absolutely right about that. It seems like there's just a web of rumors swirling around the team, which is never good, especially in June. We probably shouldn't be talking about that, but I don't know. I'm excited to see what unfolds when camp starts in a few weeks, because things certainly don't seem, it doesn't seem like the Bills had, like the worst season. Like, they should be in better spirits and kind of more cohesive coming into this season to actually win something this time, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely feels like something's off, something's not meshing, and like you said, it'd be interesting to see how training camp plays out, but well, we were once called the bickering Bills, and then we went on to like go to like 4 Super Bowls in a row. So I don't know. Maybe things will work themselves out.
That's what they need.
Listen, the bottom line is, once you get between the lines and start playing, that's all that's going to matter. This all happened in the off season when nothing counted, so everything gets kind of magnified a little bit. Once training camp starts, the focus will be on what it should be, and that team getting back to the Super Bowl and hopefully winning this time. So with Stefon Diggs on the field, still catching passes from Josh Allen. Lyndsey, we appreciate the time very much. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Excited to celebrate the Jackie Young MVP this season.
I mean, she's putting up those numbers.
All right, Jess, good to get caught up on the WNBA. I don't know if anybody's taken out the Aces. I mean, they just look so good right now, and I'm glad you started out with the Notre Dame trio connection there. So let's see what kind of postseason awards or regular season awards they can grab.
I mean, there could be an all-star team that is just ND players right now. It is great to watch. But
love that, Mike.
We need to talk a little bit about the NBA draft, which is coming up, and the phenomenon that is Victor Wembanyama from France. When you watch this guy play, are you also just like, how on earth is this physically possible?
I guess anymore, Jess, this stuff shouldn't be surprising us, because the athletes just get better and better. Now, that always doesn't equate to them being better than the players before them or the game being better, but just the athletic ability. This guy's what, 7'4", 7'5",
7'2", I think.
Oh no, he's 7'4". I think he's 7'4". Oh, we're gonna have to do a quick check on that. I thought he was 7'4".
Well, either way, I mean, very pedantic argument. That 7'2" is also extremely tall. Mike, I saw that on DraftKings Sportsbook, he is minus 20,000 to go number one. So if you bet $20,000, you win $100.
I mean, that's all.
I would rather do that than go in the submersible that's exploring the Titanic, but it's not a great thing to spend money on.
And you're right. He is listed at 7'2". It's interesting when you're like over 7 foot, you sometimes list your height as smaller. And when you're smaller, you list your height as bigger, right? If you're 6 foot, you list it as 6'2". If you're 7'4", you list it at 7'2", but he is listed at 7'2". And that's unbelievable. $20,000 bet to win $100. So $100 grand will get you $500. The amount you would have to bet just to make anything substantial would be absurd. Yet I don't know if there's more of a lock bet than this, right? I mean, so it's almost like you could empty out your bank account, bet it on this, and it would be the safest bet known to mankind.
Yeah, I mean, a safer bet than traveling to the bottom of
Yes.
the ocean.
Yes.
Yeah, he's going to be really good. I think the league has been broadcasting his games, I think the whole season, because fans are getting really, really hyped up for him, which I think is cool. But I've seen clips here and there, and I can't wait to watch him in the NBA playing against some of the other stars in the league, because
It's unreal.
going to be
But you're right.
electric.
Seeing a 7'2" guy do that much, shooting threes or driving the lane the way he does. I mean, especially in a league that isn't it's still physical. NBA is physical, but not as physical as it once was. And that's what players are used to now, less physicality than, decades ago. And that's these games, what they're able to do in the lane or from the 3-point land. It's incredible. And I love how they've been showing highlights of when he played against Scoot Henderson, could be the second pick of the draft. Mm-hmm. They played, I think, in 2022 at some point, showing these guys play against one another. But I'm looking forward to the draft. The offseason's already been incredible with Chris Paul getting traded to Washington for Bradley Beal, and now a new big three in Phoenix with Beal and Booker and Kevin Durant. Let's see what they can do. But to me, one of the most interesting things was in France, LeBron James and Draymond Green having a meal together. I mean,
I didn't see that.
Yes, they're in France. I don't know where in France, but there's this table there, and they just show in the corner where there's just basically you see a few people, but you see LeBron and Draymond sitting next to one another, wearing like bucket hats.
Well, I did see that LeBron was at Le Mans last weekend doing like the starter thing at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So maybe he's just on a big French vacay right now.
But Draymond's sitting next to him, so you know what happens. Everybody starts talking. Draymond opted out of his player option. Is he going to end up with the Lakers? Is that where he's going to end up? Is Chris Paul going to end up with the Lakers? Because probably sure as hell probably not going to play with Washington. So it's going to be that part is going to be interesting, especially with the new CBA kicking in and so much penalty for these high salaries for the luxury tax. It is amazing to me that the difference, and I don't know, and sometimes this goes into the weeds, but like Draymond Green is supposed to make $26.7 million this year, and it was a player option. He turned it down. So the thought is stay with Golden State, sign like a 3-year deal for like $70 million, which is less per year than what he was going to make. But now he's guaranteed $70 million instead of just the one more year of $26 million. Here's the interesting thing. If he did that and took his first year salary for next year at $21 million, where he was supposed to make $26 million, that $5 million less would save them maybe about $40 million in luxury tax money if some other things happened as well. But that's how much a few million in salary per year can save a team in luxury tax overall. And that's what it seems like this year is going to be about, is all these owners paying these monstrous luxury bill taxes, especially Golden State, on how do they kind of get that number down this year.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think sometimes fans love to play the salary cap game, especially in the NFL where there's a hard cap, obviously, and think about ways to move players around and restructure things. But to me, the salary cap, it's like the U.S. debt ceiling, Mike. It's none of my business. I just let other people take care of it. We always end up underneath whatever it needs to be, and we're good. So.
All right, so we have time before the
Did I remind you of Sid there?
Yeah, that's what I need. You remind me of my pregnant daughter. Jeez, oh man. Already tired all of her life, and now in pregnancy talking about how she's tired every single day as well. And I can't say a word.
Not worried about your debt.
No, not at all. Not one bit. So let's look at F1. They were in Canada, Canadian Grand Prix. Is it getting boring in the sport? I mean, maybe this is like when Lewis Hamilton was winning championship after championship after championship. Verstappen doesn't lose. He would lead every lap of this race. He's won now, 41 races overall. You're into this more than I am, but I'm still a fan of it. Does it get boring to you when you have it's almost like between Hamilton now Verstappen, when you had the dominant Tiger Woods. Did we like that in golf, or do we like it better when there's a few people vying for the top spot?
It's a good question. I think, yes, to most fans, it is getting boring, to be honest. I think that especially newer fans came into the sport when there was a really exciting title race going on between Verstappen and Hamilton. So the last 2 years has been a little bit boring, especially because Verstappen's winning by so much time. He won the race on Sunday by, I think it was 20 seconds, with a dead bird stuck in his car.
Yes.
That is a level of difficulty that I don't think many cars could do in any of the championship dominant seasons that there have been. The Red Bull is just that fast. Now, it seems like the Aston Martin is closing the gap, and Mercedes is closing the gap to Aston Martin. And they've both had some big upgrades over the last couple races. But yeah, I think people are bored of listening to the Dutch national anthem with Verstappen at the top of the podium week in and week out. Like, there's no way around it. And I think there's still reasons to watch if you like the sport, which I, of course, do. But if you're a casual fan and you're mostly just interested in the leading car, then yeah, it's probably lost a little bit of its excitement. I'm still enjoying the season. There's still fun stuff going on. I love all of the personalities in the sport. And I think seeing the progress that the other teams have made so far into this season does give me hope for next season being a little bit more competitive. But certainly Max Verstappen, if we're going back to the Victor Wembanyama odds, like Max Verstappen's have to be also not great bets to take right now, because he's winning all of those races.
I'm with you about the other manufacturers kind of catching up, but making it a little more interesting.
Closing the gap,
yeah. That's a good term. And then you have Daniel Ricciardo, who said that he'd like to end his Formula One career by returning to Red Bull. I don't know how that's going to happen, quite honestly, but his name brings up one of the other things about this is the alternate broadcast, which was he and Will Arnett, I believe, were the main ones here. And
I was going to say something mean, and I'm not going to say it, but I'll tell you what it was going to be. And I was going to say, I would like to end my Notre Dame career as the quarterback of the football team.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
You may have as much of a chance as Ricardo does of being.
But I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that.
Okay, no, I'm glad you're not going to say that. So what did you think of this alternate broadcast? Again, stemming from Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, who I love. I love it more when they have less guests, but others have tried to do this. None have come close to that. Some have been downright awful. This was not very good.
Okay, so I, full disclosure, didn't watch a lot of it, so I don't think I can say good or bad, but I will say for the few minutes that I did watch it, I immediately was like, I need to go back to the main broadcast, because I think that the Sky commentary group that does the races they're so good at it that I don't feel like I can miss, 5 minutes of what they're adding just to, hear, whatever guest Marshawn Lynch was on, Patrick Dempsey was on. I know, like, Will Arnett, I've heard from my other pod host, Spencer Hall, who I do DNF with, the F1 podcast. We talked a little bit about this on the show this week. Apparently he knows his stuff. Daniel Ricciardo obviously knows his stuff. Like, he's a very accomplished driver and a great personality, but it doesn't mean that you're going to have instant chemistry or you're going to be able to entertain people for 2 hours and provide something that's different than what Sky is already presenting on the main broadcast, which was on ABC this week. So I think it's probably it's tough to find an audience for that. Yeah. I certainly want to listen to what, the experts and the people at the race and in the pit lane, like Ted Kravitz, have to say. So I'm not going to stay tuned in it, but I hope that it gets better, because I also haven't heard amazing things.
I think it can get better. We'll see. Right now, I like Will Arnett a lot better in his commercial with Jason Bateman.
Yeah, I love Will Arnett on Arrested Development. Joe Bluth is one of the greatest comedic characters of all time.
Completely agree with that. So we'll see. You're right. I think it could get better as well. We will see. We'll see if I can get any better in beating you in golf when you're out here next week for our golf tournament. So, Jess, next time we chat, we will be together doing it. I look forward to it.